Okay, good morning, welcome. Today we have a very nice and sunny day, okay? That's the normal thing in Alicante. It was ready to receiving all of you, so that's the point. Well, first, yeah, can somebody close the door, please? Thank you. Okay, in name of the University of Alicante, it's a pleasure to give you the welcome to our facilities here on 1 million square meters campus with near 1 million extra for expanding in what we call the West Campus. And sure you will have time to enjoy the campus. Well, director she couldn't be here, she couldn't make it, but anyway, I'm part of the board of the university, so in her name and in the name of the university, my field here is to give you the welcome to this very, very interesting season journal and conference about Metaverse and so on. So first of all, I would like to give the word to Aurelio LÓPEZ-TARRUELLA, who is the head and the heart of the conference, and he will give you some feedback about what's going to happen these days, okay? And after that, I will formally give the opening and to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Good morning, everyone. I will try to be very brief because actually you will be suffering me a lot during these 2 days because I am taking care of the organization and other things. So in this very brief introduction, I would like just to say 3 things. The first is thank you. Thank you to all of you, but also to the people that has made this possible. In particular, the chair for the responsible development of the Metaverse, which is an initiative of the University of Alicante and Meta Platforms. Thank you, Christina. I don't know if Nico has already arrived as well. Thank you for your support. There is also other sponsors that I would like to mention, like Rails, Metaverse for Good, Transform for Europe, GIP Tech, and the Master of Law of the Digital Society. We have Julian Lopez, his director here. Some of them could not make it, like XR for Europe or Immersiva, which are association in the field of extended reality technologies. I will also would like to say thanks to the European Commission. Thanks, Anne. It's very important for us to have you here and so that you can listen to us and we can have an exchange of ideas with the legislator, actually. The second thing that I would like to mention is about the purpose of this Congress. I would say that there are 3 purposes, 3 objectives. The first one is to get to know to each other, as simple as that, because in the end of the day, we are researchers, that we are actually working in the same field, which are digital technologies and in particular immersive technologies, virtual worlds. So we consider that it was a good idea to organize something so that we can meet each other, we can do community, and who knows, probably we will have some future cooperation. Secondly, it was an opportunity to give young scholars and not so young scholars an opportunity to share their research with all of us. In the first phase of the MetaverseUA chair, we have tried to organize webinars where prominent experts were giving us their opinion about legal aspects of the Metaverse. But by doing that, in the end, we were leaving aside all those young scholars that actually, I would say, that are more prepared than we are in order to understand these new technologies. You are more in Fortnite and Roblox and things like that. So this is, with this Congress, we are giving these young scholars that opportunity. But finally, then the last objective is a common objective, which is in the title of our chair. We all want a responsible development of the metaverse. We understand that responsible development as doing research with two purposes. The first one is to study how we can ensure an adequate protection of citizens when they do activities in the metaverse. And the second is to study the legal framework, whether this is adapted or not for the metaverse, in order to provide legal certainty for all those small businesses or businesses alike that want to expand their activities to the metaverse. And finally, the last thing that I would like to say is that I hope you have a great time in Alicante. Particularly that. I would like you to have a great time, to enjoy, to know to each other. Let's see if we learn something, and I'm sure that we will reach some fruitful conclusions that might bring us to future cooperations. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Aurelio, thank you so much. Not too much to say after these words, no? To be honest, I was thinking most of you said before, and I would like to touch the first point. Well, my background is in business, so I'm sorry, I'm not technology, I'm not from law, but anyway, first of all, of the 3 points you mentioned that are the objectives, I would like to touch the first one. This is networking, face-to-face technology. You are all immersed in other type of relationship between companies and people and companies and so on. But face-to-face is very important. I mean, say, why must I travel here or go there or whatever physically? In the last 12 years, I traveled really a lot. And that permits, after that, once you have trust that is quite complex by a screen, once you have trust with different people, then everything runs. But it's the first point under my point of view. You know? So thank you for being here physically, okay? And I'm saying this in a conference of Metaverse, okay? So it's not easy to balance the 2 points, no, under that way. Well, of course, give all the thanks to all the people that are sponsoring this conference. Basically, I don't want to forget anybody, but first of all, I would like to mention Meta, okay, that it's quite important to sponsor this chair. Actually, we are very happy. I'm responsible of the institutional chairs of the university. We are climbing very fastly. Last year we had about 25, 30. Now we are climbing near to 50, 60 and increasing. And not only that, all the most important companies of NASDAQ, for example, are in relationship with us and developing different chairs. So we are very proud about that. No? So thank you very much for the sponsors. And thank you for Red.es, okay, that it's also part of all of this, the European Commission and the European authorities that are involved with all of this, of course. And why not? All the researchers, everybody who is involved with this, all the European institutions and researchers, okay? So that permits to have this face-to-face and relationships here. By my ignorance that I don't know too much about this, but anyway, my impression is that some years ago, 3-4 years ago, it was very on the top of the wave, all the metaverse and so on. Now I hear more about artificial intelligence and a little bit less. So is this different types of waves that are going on bigger than other? I don't believe that, and I'm talking under the business point of view. It's all in the same bag. I mean, it's a mixture, okay? So sure, you will talk about all of this. This do not mean that one is after the other and one substitutes the other one. No, I mean, it's all together, and it's a moving and so on. So hopefully you will have a very successful stay here in Alicante, and it's easy here to combine the professional, intellectual, academic, and personal stay here in Alicante and at the university. So, time to work, time to enjoy. Thank you for being with us. You're welcome.
once upon a time, many years ago, some animals touched the fire, and they thought this was quite dangerous. So some of them left, running away, and they won the battle. But some others came again, and they discovered that it was possible to burn not only the skins and the meat, but the flesh, but also meat. And then the brain started developing, and this was the beginning of the first era. Time later, many years later, these humans managed to settle down, and they domesticated animals and plants. Many of them left and continued with the nomadism because they felt it was very hard to stay together, and actually it's very hard to live together in society. They won the battle, but they lost the war second time. Those who stood, they managed to go on, and they developed. And this was the beginning of the second era. Some 10,000 years ago, humans developed a way to transfer knowledge for a method different than orally. And we call this history. Many of them continued transmitting orally, and they won the battle, but they lost the war. Those who entered into the third era lost the battle and won the war. This is the fourth era. And the fourth era is the constellation of so many things that come at the same time so rapidly. And one of them is moving from the analogic world to the digital world, from the digital world to the virtual world, from the virtual world to the cognitive world. It's just in just some years. This is a new era. So welcome to the new era. We are now devoting a couple of days to dig into one of the main aspects of this new era, how to move from a digital world to a virtual world. And there is where we have the metaverse. And then to start, and as the program say, the metaverse in context, to bring the metaverse in context, nothing better than having the authorities and industry. So here we'll start with the authorities, and the authorities is BAJART. BAJART is the Deputy Head of Unit for Interactive Technologies, Digital for Culture and Education at DG Connect of the European Commission. People tend to think that the European Commission is full of bloody lawyers. And it's true until a certain extent, but God say thank, thanks God, from time to time we have electric engineers. Yeah? She holds a PhD, an electric engineer, yeah, and she knows the academy quite well, and has been in, if I remember well, in Louvain, L'Université Louvain, and also in Liège, yeah. And then she joined the European Commission. It's quite a long history of how many years, the European Commission?
20.
20, that's fine, that's fine. She was responsible, also head of sector of AI, of robotics and artificial intelligence. So she is the very person to open the pot and trying to bring to our attention what is the strategy, because don't forget, tactics follow strategy, not the other way around. We live in a tactical way, in a tactical world, yeah? Always surrounded by tactics. The European Commission has a Web 4.0 strategy, and this is what we are going to learn in the next 20 minutes, and it's fine. Yeah. So, the floor is yours.
Is it working, this thing? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. I'm really delighted to be with you today. Also, because it was just explained, I have a very technological background, so I'm very curious to listen to all your talks and expose in the next 2 days, because I'm definitely sure that I'm going to learn a lot. What I'm going to do is that because I have a kind of standard presentation, I will go relatively fast, but I will stop on the points that I think are more of an interest for you today. If you have any questions, I will be around for the whole duration of the conference, so just come and ask, and I will be very happy to talk to you. Also, if you don't have any questions and you just want to have a chat, I came here for the networking as well. So, indeed, we have a strategy, that we are quite proud of. It was already published last July, and since then we had really an excellent feedback from everyone inside and outside Europe. I must say that I talked to quite many Americans and Asians, and they are very jealous of this Web 4.0 strategy of ours. And this is not so common at European level. I think we did it at the right time, and what you are doing also, all of you, is a big part of it. So this is really important that, we exchange and we try to make things happen the best way. So this whole strategy was basically triggered by the observation that virtual choice and Web 4.0 and metaverses, extended reality, however you call it, is becoming more and more prominent in all sectors of the economy. But we really wanted to make sure that we find a way where we could really go prepare for the future, and not the immediate future, but the long-term future. And this is the reason why we are not using the term metaverse or metaverses, and we are using virtual tours and Web 4.0. Because what we really wanted to set with this strategy was a long-term vision. So we are perfectly aware that we don't have the Web 4.0 yet. Many people will even claim that we don't have Web 3.0 yet. So 4.0 is certainly a long-term perspective, but it's quite important that we prepare for it, and then we don't wait until it's there to once again, because I would say once again, as Europeans sit and wonder, and now what do we do? How do we catch up the train? No, this time let's try to be before, and let's try to prepare ourselves the best that we can. So if you have a look at the communication, you will see definitions for virtual tours and Web 4.0. What is important to realize here is that we are really talking about a full blending between the digital and the real world. So our vision is really of a place where you don't see the difference anymore. I repeat, long term. And where basically you will have the humans in the loop, but you will also have everything around, the objects, whatever, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, everything will really go together to create this new concept of Web 4.0. So our vision for this Web 4.0 and these virtual tours is a vision where these things will reflect EU values, principles, and fundamental rights. This sounds so easy to repeat that sentence again and again. I'm sure that in your career, if you are a bit interested in what the European Commission is doing, you will have heard about the EU values, principles, and rights quite a lot. But we have to really remember that this is at the core of it. Without it, we are not developing anything of use for the citizens, for the businesses, and for the society. So that's really the first thing that we always have to keep in mind when we talk about metaverses or anything else. We want these things to be places where people can feel safe, confident, and empowered, and where their rights as users, consumers, workers, or creators are fully respected. Once again, easier said than done, because there are quite many questions behind this statement, but it's also extremely crucial that we develop things in that direction, and the title of your conference shows this is exactly what you are trying to do as well. We also want them to be a place where European businesses can develop. Because, of course, there is all these societal aspects, but they are also very important for the economy, and we want Europe to be strong and competitive. So that's also something that we definitely need. We want them to be open and interoperable, giving full freedom of choice to anyone. So you can choose which platform, you can choose which avatar, you can choose which device you use. You are not attached to a specific system. And of course, we have to take care of the sustainability aspects, because this is also quite important these days. So we came with this communication around 4 pillars, one on people and skills, one on business and industrial ecosystem, one on government, and one on governance. The communication was the result of very intense consultations with the industry, with the academia, with the end users, but also with the citizens. And for the first time, we use a new tool developed by the Commission, which is called a Citizens Panel, where basically we invited 150 citizens from all over Europe, statistically representative from the population, so they were randomly chosen, but representing all category of age, of jobs, of interest. So we had retired doctors, students, workers in many different domains. We had engineers, but we also had cleaning ladies. We had people from the south, from the north, from the east, from the west. And I mean, this was very interesting. They talked for 3 full weekends, and they came with a list of 23 recommendations that you can consult on the web if you are interested, that we also took into account when we developed it. We developed the communication. So basically, I will go very fast through this, but when it comes to people and skills, what we want to make sure is that we have experts, enough experts, and we also equip people with the basic skills to use these tools, because those are the 2 aspects. So we have actions to really, I will say more later to really develop, curricula and expertise, but also to support the normal user, the citizen, to use it. In the next weeks, we are going to publish a toolbox for the citizens, which is going to be really, it was a demand from the citizens themselves, a place where they can find all the information they need if they want to start using any of these tools. And we are also working quite a lot with our Safer Internet colleagues. Basically have a conference next week about it as well, to really also approach the question of children in this context, because this is, of course, something that is also, very often mentioned, but rightly so. When it comes to businesses, one of the big things we are going to do is a partnership. I will say more about this in a minute as well. But we are also having quite many actions on different other things. How to support the ecosystem, how to support the SMEs, how to support the creative sector, how to support, the cultural sector, because we are extremely rich in Europe when it comes to culture, and that's something that we should probably exploit more. We are also, checking the questions of counterfeiting, of copyright, of IP, and the possibility to create regulatory sandboxes, also of interest for you, more in a minute. Then, we have 2 pillars on governance and governance, where we are going to develop flagships in 2 selected domains of priority, the Cityverse and the human virtual twin. These 2 things have been carefully chosen because they are things where we already have quite a lot in Europe, and it's already a bit mature, or it is extremely important for us. So the human virtual twin, for example, you can imagine that if we manage to have that at one point, this is going to completely change the way we approach medicine in Europe. So we have a manifesto signed by quite many people already to develop this, and 8 running projects, a constellation of projects that just started. This is kind of long term as well before we really can get there, but this is also important that we start thinking about it now. Then there is this whole bunch about the governance that is certainly at the center of your interest. I mean, it's obvious that we cannot do any of these things in isolation. We will also have to reach out intentionally to bodies, to institutions, because this is about really the next version of the internet. So we really have to work together on how we are going to tackle all the issues there. Interoperability, standardization, protocols, security, and so on. So this is also something quite important in the... So the updates. I just wanted to highlight certain things of interest for you. The first thing I would like to mention is our European Parliament reports recently published, and another communication from the Commission on artificial intelligence. These 2 European Parliament reports that you might have heard about or even read already, there is one more on legal issues and one more on economical issues. They are extremely important because they show the interest at political level, first of all, and also they give the impulse. You know how it works in the European institutions. This is the Parliament that is giving the kind of decision on the Commission on what to implement. So we now have the mandate, in a way, to really dig more into these two things, the legal issues and the more purely single market issues. So it means a lot of work coming on these two topics in the next years. And this is where you will play a role. If you have a look at the latest communication, it was a package basically that went together with the AI Act on AI, you will notice that in the communication itself, there is a whole section about virtual tours and digital twins. This is also extremely important because I agree with everything that was said so far. The new hype is generative AI. It's changing every 2 years now, the hype, right? Generative AI is a hype without being a hype. I'm sorry, but it was there for quite a long time. But it's just that suddenly people realize it's there. But of course, there are very close links with virtual tours. To create virtual tours, to use virtual tours. So we are discussing a lot with our colleagues as well. There is already quite many things in the pipeline. There will be more coming, but this is obvious that we also have room there for more collaboration and working together. We have just published yesterday, I did not have the time to change call tentative, an important call in the Digital Europe program that is basically the result of one of the actions I presented before about people and skills. And this is a call basically to support the development and the skills of experts in Europe in the field of virtual tours. So we are really calling for projects, so consortia, who will come together and create master's, bachelor's, or doctoral programs at EU level on the domain of virtual tours. So we have some things done in some universities. Not everyone has the chance to have the Alicante University who is very active on the domain. In some universities, you just have people a bit isolated there. So what we really want to do is to put people together, and then you can work together on a program, exchange, create it, and so on. And there is funding available for that. So that's important to know. And the call will close in September, most probably. Honestly, yesterday I did not have the time to double check the date, but if you are interested, you can always ask me, and I can imagine, yes. I will send you the exact link because I don't even have it. So, but I thought this was something that could be of interest for you. Yes, indeed. We also have another open call for the moment, which is much more technical, this one. It's really targeting SMEs. And the idea is really to help them to really develop, products a bit further down the value chain. I mentioned this because, you know how we work at the Commission. We cover the different bits and pieces from the value chain block by block. So we have Horizon Europe funding the research, we have Digital Europe funding the deployment, but sometimes we miss a bit the rest. And this is these gaps that we are trying to fill for the moment with, for example, these calls for masters, and this call where we go a bit further again, because SMEs really keep on telling us that it's very hard for them because there is only research and not really the part coming later on. We just published a study as well, which is called Zero Distance XR Applications and Services. I know from my past life, because I've been a researcher for a long time, that the studies from the Commission are not exactly the first source of information I would have thought out. However, now that I'm on the other side and I see what you can find in these studies, I really encourage you, if you are working in the field, to download this document, which is more than 300 pages of findings, references, biographies, links. Honestly, this is if you want a kind of state-of-the-art and a picture of what's going on, this is really the place to go. So I really do encourage you to have a look at it. There is quite a lot there that can really be useful for many people beyond us, because of course the purpose of these studies is to feed our own thinking, but it can be useful for others as well. We have more studies coming in the very near future. One really on a kind of analysis of the situation. One on the health topic. This is also one of the results of the communication, because there are quite many studies out there, but this is very fragmented, and we want to really make sure that we know what is missing and what we already know about the impact on health and well-being. And one on standardization, another extremely important topic where we really want also to identify the gaps and to see where we need to take action. Something also of high interest for you. We just started working on regulatory sandboxes. So I suspect that many of you know even better than I what a regulatory sandbox is. I must confess I had to learn. I had no clue these things were existing. But that's something that is really going to help us in all the regulatory work that we will do in the coming years. So the idea of a regulatory sandbox is that in a place you allow people to test their systems without necessarily following all the rules yet, but with the purpose to identify where there are problems in existing legislation, where some work needs to be done. This is something that we are going to build together with member states. So for that purpose, we have a virtual troll steering group where we have member states. We already started the discussions. There will be more coming in the next days. And we are really going to investigate with them what could be done. There are already some regulatory sandboxes, for example, on the topic of artificial intelligence. So we could build on this, but this is something that we need. We will also discuss this heavily with our coalition, more in a minute. And there is also not a study this time, but a staff working document, another technology very similar, where you can also find a lot of information if you want to do so. This is the 277/2 document in the Commission jargon. Just to say that standardization and interoperability, we work a lot on this as well, because we have quite many documents supporting this. And there is an open public consultation for the moment. Would you like to say something? Would you like to have something to say about this? That you feel like there is some specific need? This is now or never to do it until the end of July. And there was a previous consultation on competition. And there will be a workshop about this at the end of June in Brussels in 2 weeks' time. This is also remote, so you can register and follow remotely. And I think this is going to be also quite interesting to see what has been the answers of the stakeholders on this question of competition, which is of interest for you as well. We are building a partnership, which is basically a way to discuss the Commission and the stakeholders. Everyone is welcome in this, and it includes you. So this is not limited to technology. This is what I want to say. If you are interested to take part of this, have a look. Don't hesitate to raise your interest. For the moment, it's not existing yet. We are developing it, but we are developing it with the help of our coalition, an industrial coalition, which is unfortunately has changed quite a lot of topics since it was created. So it's not limited to industry. You are welcome to join if you are European. So this is the only, we don't accept anyone else. It's very easy to apply, but you apply as a representative of your institution. So it's not any researcher applying for interest. It's really 1 or 2 representatives from your organization who are attending the meeting and are committed to really take actions if needed. But you can just find all the information on this webpage to apply. I know it was a lot. It's always what people say, but I don't see how to make it shorter. So just come for questions later on. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne, for such a comprehensive understanding of the strategy of the Commission. Thank you also for, I guess that this would be available.
No, unfortunately no, because I don't have the permission. But,
okay,
yeah.
But at least we can have a fair understanding of what the Commission is proposing, and we can go right away to all the different documents. Yeah. But it is very important that at a certain point the Commission publishes, if not this, at least a picture which can permit us, because now this has to be studied deeply, because each one of the slides was so deep, and not only researchers but citizens need to have an understanding, a clear understanding of what the Commission is doing, and so I encourage you to bring it into the public domain. Yeah.
I will relay your comment to the communication department.
Great, very good, excellent. And it is essential, to my view, and to pass the message clearly that Europe is there. It's true that we have the United States and China, and it looks like the Europeans are quite far away. But we have the European Commission leading, and you have shown us that the European Commission has a clear understanding that sooner or later, I think that much sooner than later, the virtual world will be a reality, and we Europeans, we have to be there. Well, thank you, Anne, for bringing us all this information and the whole picture. And now we come to the other side. When we enter into a new era, there are 4 ways of addressing a new era. The first way is just to think that just keep things as they are and be very patient and not rush. Yeah. They will win, those who follow this path will win the battle, and they will lose the war. The second is to adapt. Making up, yeah, a kind of fashion, and well, it's fine. It's fine when you move a little bit, but they will win the battle, but they will lose the war. The other ways of approaching, the other scenarios for approaching a new era. The first one is distortion. So the rules of the game are there, but they are distorted and bring into the corners. And the fourth one is to reinvent it. And this is what Meta brought into the table just some years ago. We come to a new era. This new era starts with moving from analogical to digital, from digital to virtual. This is already there. It will not explode yet, because as artificial intelligence took 70 years to come into the present situation, the metaverse will take some time, certainly not 70 years. But virtual worlds will come, and will come pretty soon. And we have to profit these years where all the superstructures have to be developed yet in order to be able, in order for the virtual worlds flourishing. We have to use this time to research, to do things like we're doing today, and to listen those who have jumped into the new era the way Meta has done it. And for that, we have with us Christina Jackson. Yeah? Christina is External Engagement Lead for Reality Labs Policy at Meta. She has been working for many years in this field, not only in Meta, but in other enterprises. Now living in DG, Washington, and we do appreciate very much that you came from so far to stay with us for a while. So thank you, and let's come now to the other side of the picture and see how, from the enterprises, you approach this new era.
Well, first, can everyone hear me? Thank you for having me. This is lovely. This is my first time in Alicante, and it's absolutely beautiful. I want to point out a couple of things. That the title of this talk is Welcome to the Metaverse. And as Anne and Manuel very eloquently pointed out, we're not quite here yet. And I think everyone in this room knows that. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the technologies that we at Meta are focusing on as foundational to this metaverse vision and what that will start to look like. I also just wanted to talk a little bit about my role at Meta, and I think that really informs and kind of culminates how we are looking at the metaverse and our approach towards the responsible development of the metaverse. So, like you mentioned, I work on our public policy team that covers Reality Labs. So for those who aren't familiar, Reality Labs is the portion of Meta that is focused on the development towards the metaverse. So that's virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, spatial computing, and all of the various technologies, whether it's hardware, operating systems, so on and so forth, that kind of come together and will converge to create this metaverse and make this vision come to fruition. I kind of sit between our engineers and researchers and product teams and our public policy teams. So I have the opportunity to look at, from more of a technical perspective and research perspective, what's coming down the line, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years out, but then also look at the trends we are seeing in public policy around the world. And I think it's important to kind of make the distinction between what legal standards are and what we're seeing in public policy trends. Because, and folks like yourself and other people who work in public policy really have a pulse on the people, right? Understanding what people generally are interested in. You know, are people interested in more privacy? Are people interested in certain use cases? How do people feel about their safety? And I think this is really important because what we'll see, or what we've seen globally, is that sometimes the legal standards in a particular region or a particular place don't always reflect where people's expectations are when it comes to a technology. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The other thing about this is we are in a room of absolute experts. I am so thrilled to be here with everyone. So I want this to be more of a conversation. I will tell you a few things that we're working on, but I think that they're, as evidenced by all of the papers and the research that's going to be presented today, I want to make sure that folks have a chance to weigh in on some of this. And that's really because our approach to building the metaverse, the number one priority is to make sure it's collaborative. There is not a single company, a single industrial player who should be thinking that this is something you build in a vacuum. So that's why I think it's very important for industry to come together with policymakers and regulators and academics and researchers and folks like yourselves to help, you know, kind of address and solve some of these questions that arise when you're trying to work towards a more responsible vision of the metaverse. So I'll start there. Building the metaverse responsibly. For Meta, that means a couple of things. Obviously, I said collaboration, but there are really 4 pillars that we've focused on when we're building these various technologies. And the first being privacy, safety and integrity, economic opportunity, and then diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those are very, very broad topics, but they're kind of the lens through which we view all of our development. When we are asking ourselves questions about, you know, a new technology that we're building that might require new sensors, that might gather new data, or a novel data set that has not really previously been gathered or used in a commercial or consumer way, we have to weigh all of those. Like, what are the privacy considerations? What are the safety and integrity considerations? How do we make sure this is something that's good for society and balance that on what value is actually being delivered? So I think that's really important to point out because a lot of the technologies that we are focused on building right now, especially, you know, those considerations are important. So we're all familiar with virtual reality, we're all familiar with augmented reality, but there are other technologies that come into this space that I think will make augmented reality and virtual reality experiences and experiences within virtual worlds so much more meaningful. So for example, we are doing a lot of work around what user interfaces look like. Today, most of the way that we interface with these technologies is through a smartphone. We also have, virtual reality headsets, but I think we're moving away from the traditional inputs, right? Has anyone tried, the Ray-Ban Meta glasses at all? So these are smart glasses. They are not augmented reality glasses, so there's no display, but these glasses have cameras on them that so they use visual inputs, and then they use multimodal AI, which are built into the device, to process that and deliver information to you through audio outputs. So this is kind of like our first foray into a completely different user interface. So if you have a question, I think one of the ways that I find them most useful, and actually found them most useful on my trip here, is coming through the airport when there are signs that are not in English, I'm not sure what they say, and I can look at them with my glasses. My glasses can read them in Spanish and then tell me what the translation is in English. So, whereas previously you would have to use your phone and you'd have to type in something for that to process and then give you that output. So I'm flagging that because I think when I say we are developing towards the metaverse, that is an example of the types of new technologies that we are focused on to bring this metaverse vision to life. We're also doing a lot of work on electromyography. I don't know if is anyone familiar with what electromyography is? Okay, so for those who might not be, this is like a wrist wearable that senses like micro pulses, that the same pulse you would use to click. Like if you're using a mouse, there's like a physical click, right? But you actually, because you're using a mouse, you have to click a button. That's a pretty prominent movement. But that same neural pulse that you could maybe even just move your finger just a millimeter, it delivers the same message, right? So what an electromyography can do is help you kind of like navigate if you don't have a screen, right? So it can tell like click once for yes, click twice for no, without you really doing kind of a visual movement. So these are other ways to explore, again, different user interfaces. Because if you do away with a smartphone and you have glasses on your face, we might all look absolutely ridiculous walking down the street doing all of this, right? So I think we're exploring all these different user interfaces. But again, back to my earlier point about those pillars of responsible innovation, right? Before we would deliver any of these technologies into the market, we really want to think about them critically through the lens of privacy, safety and integrity, diversity and inclusion, so on and so forth. I'm really thrilled because of the topics that we're focused on today. A lot of the discussion and the papers we're going to hear about today beautifully align with some of our current priorities at Reality Labs. So we kind of have these North Stars from a policy perspective. We are focused on governance, which is so fascinating because I think that is like what the next panel is about. We are focused on responsible and representative and inclusive avatars, also incredible because that is what the following panel is about. And then we're also really focused on privacy models. So I'm putting that out there because again, like I said, the collaboration is so important and it's really exciting to see that folks are really focused on these areas that we think are very critical to developing the metaverse in a way that is thoughtful and humane and responsible. So I will quickly touch on a couple of things. I think there's something that we really want to see happen. And this really leans into the points on economic opportunity and also diversity and equity and inclusion in metaverse spaces. And that is a more open XR ecosystem. And I think that's important for several reasons. For interoperability, I think it's important for scaling the technology, but it's really also important to make sure that many people, kind of regardless of where you are and socioeconomic status, but have an opportunity to start to take advantage of this type of innovation, and especially from an economic perspective. So there's a couple of things that we as a company have started to do, but I think this is just the beginning. And I also think it opens the door for more questions about, on balance, what the right type of openness looks like. So, for example, I guess it's June now, so this was towards the end of April, Meta announced us beginning to work towards this more open ecosystem. So that started with our hardware, opening up our hardware platform so that other developers or other hardware manufacturers who are thinking about developing headsets for specific communities and for specific use cases can build on kind of like our hardware. So that's, I think, super important, again, for equity, for inclusion, for scaling the technology. Second, we are opening up our operating system. So for folks who are building and want to leverage that XR operating system, that is a way to do that. That again, hopefully will bring more people into this space. And then third, we've opened up our store to make sure that more and more developers and content creators can play a role in and have their content more readily available for people who are looking for it. And I think that, again, is very, very important to just diversifying the experiences that are available for people to enjoy in these virtual worlds and metaverse-like spaces. But that being said, there's another piece here, and I'm so thrilled to see already, I think Juan talked about it, Manuel, and you've both talked about it, but it's this idea of AI in the metaverse. I think the way that the trends in policy conversations tend to treat the metaverse and AI, as two very separate things. And depending upon who you're talking about and how tech savvy they may or may not be, they may think that, oh, the metaverse is dead and Gen AI is the new thing. But I think that is actually a really unfortunate perspective, and I think it misses the fact that AI and a lot of the Gen AI tools that we're seeing are actually critical to bringing the metaverse vision to fruition, but in a way that is more democratized. So without Gen AI tools, for example, image generation, I think if you look at that as a standalone tool, it's kind of cool, but if I want to say, okay, AI, create a photo of a woman riding a horse. Okay, it does it. So what? But when you put that into the metaverse context, let's say I'm a small business owner and I want to create a metaverse storefront. And let's say I knit quilts. But I am not a coder, I'm not an engineer. What that allows me to do as the small business owner who knits quilts, I can now use generative AI tools and I can build my own virtual storefront so that people can come and view my creations. And now I'm starting to see the economic benefit of these more immersive spaces. So I think it's really important when we think about both responsible frameworks for AI and generative AI tools, but then also responsible frameworks for the metaverse, that we remember that these two things that are treated very separately currently actually come together and they converge. So we want to make sure that we're being very thoughtful about the convergence and the intersection at which those responsible frameworks will meet, and what that means, again, for those 4 pillars of privacy, safety, economic opportunity, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm going to stop there because I have to assume that there are thoughts or questions from the audience on some of the things that I've talked about, some of the things that we're building, some of the things that we're prioritizing, and I wanted to just give folks an opportunity to jump in. or we can talk on the sidelines later. We can do that too.
Thanks very much, Christina. Thank you.